thanks for tuning in and welcome to this discussion called Know the Signs. We are looking at some serious topics that everybody wants to talk about these days, but we have the experts from Supreme Counseling for Personal Development to kind of weigh in on exactly where we should go, what we should look for, and what we should do if we're experiencing these things in our everyday lives and most certainly with our children. As we look across society, we can see that our young people are experiencing some serious problems in major areas, and Supreme Counseling for Personal Development, they took it upon themselves to work along with some partners, including the Massey Foundation, to put together some videos in these particular areas. So we're going to share those videos with you today, and you have the experts who weighed in at the end of each of those videos to share the behind the scenes questions. We want you to be a part of it as well, so continue to share your questions and ask so that they can continue to share on these particular topics. Joining us today, Miss Cynthia Phillips. She is a psychologist. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Also here, Miss Tanya Newton, clinical psychologist.
Hello.
Ladies first and aside, now over to the gentleman. We have CEO of Supreme Counseling and Certified Bullying Prevention Trainer and Consultant, Mr. Sean Clark.
Nice to be here.
And also Russell Mosley, who is a counseling psychologist. All right, so you know we have a very capable team here with us, and they work very hard on these videos that we're going to share with you today. Like I said, we definitely need your feedback. So make sure that you stay tuned to the various channels through which you can reach them. Of course, on Instagram, supremecounseling.bb, and Supreme Counseling on Facebook and YouTube. All right, so let's jump straight into the very first video. And I think we're at a stage where a lot of people are saying, are we talking about this again? But can we really put it aside? Bullying. Let's check out the video.
While the characters presented in this video are fictional, the challenges are real. If you or anyone you know might be experiencing symptoms like the ones discussed in this video, do not attempt to self-diagnose. For more information, contact Supreme Counseling for Personal Development at 836-5601.
All right, so I want you to use 3 works from each artist and compare their abilities using your knowledge of literary devices. Write an argument telling me which one is better.
Look at this idiot.
What's up, Lyle? What's going on? You ain't planning to eat today?
Bro, what happened?
I could just get some money for lunch, please.
Again? Who was this? And I see mommy give you money this morning.
Don't bother.
Lol.
Lyle? Lyle, is everything okay? You hardly touched your food.
I ain't think he had nothing to eat for lunch either.
Just shut up, Jason.
What really going on with you?
Lyle, is something wrong?
No, I'm just not that hungry, that's all.
Is something happening at school? Jason, what happened to your brother?
All I know is that they're looking a little hungry when they see you today at lunch.
Yeah, you can't help me.
Man, don't start with me, love. You just get me sick, you know?
Listen, sit down. Sit down. I said sit down. I am tired of this bickering. And Lyle, if something is wrong, you can come talk to me about it.
You don't understand? You just never understand and you don't even bother to listen.
You can really stop, though.
Jason, stop. The two of you are going to finish your food, clear these dishes, and get to your homework, please. Did I make myself clear? I said, did I make myself clear?
Yes, please.
Good. Lyle, what happened? Your breakfast gone cold. Get up and get ready. I came in here since 30 minutes ago.
Oh, man, it's alright. You could go home. I just don't feel eating the breakfast today.
Lyle, you are not sick and you are not hurt. Get up and get ready. I have to leave here just now. And try and clean in this room today. You hear me? Lyle!
I hear you.
There are so many themes that we can delve into after watching that video, performed by prominent actors here in Barbados and certainly students of the BCC Arts program. I'm going to start with you, Sean. There's something new these days based on research. What are some of the most recent insights that we can get into when it comes to combating bullying? And we know that cyberbullying is now added on top of what's happening on a one-on-one basis. So what are we doing to combat bullying in these times?
Well, we are certainly working as hard as possible, not only with the persons exhibiting the bullying behaviors. We once referred to that person as the bully, but we are working as well now with the target, once referred as the victim, and the bystanders as well. We are doing a lot of work with the bystanders because we believe that the bystanders are the ones who really have the power to put an end to bullying. If you decide, I'm not laughing at that, that is not funny. If you say with a collective voice, stop, then we believe that that can really help us to reduce bullying. In any bullying episode, you will find we may have one person exhibiting the bullying behaviors and one victim, one target, and 20 bystanders. Additionally, we are working a lot with adults because we believe that adults are responsible. So let's look at a school setting. We are not just training or working with the teaching staff, but we are working with the non-teaching staff as well, because we believe if something happens on the playing field, then the groundsman should be able to step in. If something happens in the restroom, a member of the janitorial staff should be able to step in to put an end to bullying. So we are really trying to use all aspects possible, and we believe that it has to be a whole school, a whole society, a whole country effort to eradicate bullying.
All right, Cynthia, let me get a little controversial, because one person's idea of bullying is another person's idea of simply teasing. So is there like a clinical definition or a particular science that we can hammer down? This is bullying.
Bullying is whenever you make a statement to someone and you can tell by their facial features or their body reaction if it's hurtful, if it's harmful, if they become sad, if they hold their head down, if they walk away. It's a sign of bullying. They're feeling some kind of way about what was being said. And if everybody laughs and they're not a part of the laughter, it is definitely bullying.
And for you, Tanya, question, because these days we're hearing a lot of terms popping up as well. people are talking about fat shaming, when you're all of these things. And this might tie into another video we're going to debut, which talks about self-esteem. But for those people who might argue, these days you can't say anything to anyone without it being classified as bullying. What would you say to them in terms of, how they approach interactions, particularly with younger people?
I think it's important for persons to raise their awareness of the things that they say and their awareness of how their words impact other people. So yes, there are lots of labels, and it can feel like you're just trying to label everything and stop everybody from just having a natural reaction. But words really do hold power. They do impact other people. Sometimes you speak from a place of not recognizing that, and sometimes you speak from a place of intentionally noticing that but trying to pick at someone else, right? But it really comes down to being more aware of self and being more aware of others and the impact that we're having.
And to round out this particular part of the discussion, Russell, what advice would you give generally? Because like I said, there are so many insights in that particular video, so many things we can delve into. What insights would you give parents and teachers, and generally friends and people looking on, about how they should approach young people, particularly if they see that there is a bullying episode or if it is continuous bullying?
I think it's important for parents, teachers to just be aware. I think a lot of the time we look and say, oh man, these children just playing around, and they kind of turn a blind eye and they don't see the result of someone who is suffering, someone who is, head down kind of to themselves, starting to have maybe outbursts, and so they kind of ignore some of the key signs, or they don't want to see some of the key signs. And I would say, just be a little bit more aware. And then when you're dealing with someone who, you can see, or you can say could possibly be a victim, they say, okay, well, let's bring them into the office and let's talk to them. If they're not ready to talk, it's okay, but know that they have some kind of comfort and some kind of support. And if you see someone who is actually the bully or the person who is instigating the situation, same thing, have them in. Don't try not to attack them, but try to talk to them and see what's going on with them as well, because again, they might be suffering from something as well, and you really want to not seem like, oh, you're on one side and not the other. You want to really be supportive of whoever is in the situation.
One thing that stays with me that I think all of you kind of touched on is you have to be very aware of how you make people feel. And I think that really ties into our next video that we're debuting, and it is all about self-esteem.
Come on, man, it should not be this hard. None of this so I can make no damn sense. For a test I can feel anyways.
Lyle? Lyle?
Huh?
We have to talk, honey.
Bono.
I went to the school this evening to the meeting, and your teachers told me about your grades. What is happening, son?
Oh, I bound to fail. All the work getting hard and none of the teachers ain't bothered to explain anything.
Look, I remember when Jason went through something similar to this.
I am not Jason. You understand? I'm not smart like Jason. I'm not bright like Jason. I'm not popular like Jason. I would never be Jason. You don't get that?
Lyle, I am not comparing you to Jason. I don't want to do that. But you need to focus. You have to focus on your schoolwork, and I know you can get it done. Stop getting distracted by these little things. You are not getting back this phone until you focus on your schoolwork. Good.
I can't be bothered with that.
All right, good morning, everyone. As promised, I have your test results here. Some people did Exceptionally well. Some of you, not so much. Mr. Moore, you can't blame the desk for your grade, sir.
Sorry about that, sir.
Come on, man, love. How bad was it, really?
Bad.
Well, it's just a test. You'll be fine.
It ain't just one test, Chris. It's everything that I do. I just can't seem to get nothing right. I know my mother on my case about it too.
Man, mom's cool, you know. And if she on your case, is because she believes in you.
Believe in me? She believe in Jason, not me. She want me to be everything like he. She want me to be smart, bright, and popular, but that just ain't me, Chris.
You can be good, Lyle.
Look, everything I do, I just can't seem to get nothing right. Whenever I try something in the classroom, the children always making a mocky sport at me. And my mother just don't seem to understand.
They just ain't taking the time to get to know you, Lyle. It's their loss, okay?
Their loss? Why they would even like me? I don't even like myself.
Lyle.
How impactful was that? To hear that young man articulate that he doesn't even like himself. I mean, we think about it. Self-esteem, from where I sit as a complete novice, is a little harder maybe to diagnose. So talk to us, Cynthia, about what you're looking for. How do you know if somebody has low self-esteem and it's not just a bad day, for example?
Well, one of the things that I've noticed is how they see themselves. If they see themselves as insignificant, if they see themselves as not being able to reach the goals that other people have for them, do they even have goals? So if they have low self-esteem, they usually are not liking themselves. You can't even get them to look into a mirror. So, and that's one of the techniques that I use is a self-love mirror. And they won't accept the fact that they are capable of love from not just everybody else, but from themselves.
All right, Russell, how do we know that it's time to seek assistance? If, for example, we recognize somebody needs assistance and they have low self-esteem, because from where I sit, this has been something that people just kind of brushed off for years and years.
Yeah, it is one of those things that can go very quietly in the background. People can very easily just slink into the background, into the back of a class, don't say anything, don't respond to questions, and just kind of be by themselves. And then some teachers, I mean, not grudging them or saying anything bad about them, but sometimes they might see someone just being quiet and say, oh, they're such a great student because they don't cause any disruption. But then, when you can actually see somebody, like, they don't interact with people, they're by themselves, they're in a corner, they don't respond in class, despite the fact that they might even have, like, important information to share with the class, important things to say, they just kind of keep to themselves. And it's like, it definitely, when I see a class with someone like that, I definitely put an asterisk by their name and say, okay, well, we need to spend a little time with this person, because they are not looking like they're feeling comfortable with themselves. And once you feel that way, then it becomes very difficult to even be able to function in a classroom. You're learning, and really achieve your potential.
I think it's walking a really thin line, because in that video, Tanya, we saw the teacher kind of play into exactly what we were talking about before and what we saw in the last video, a bit of bullying. So he showed the entire class, here's the guy who got a bad grade. And then when he reacted, the teacher kind of used his power to say, It's not the table's fault. So again, shaming him. So, you know, how do we deal with this, or how do we recognize our own imperfections in dealing with people and students in particular who might have low self-esteem?
I think it goes back to what Russell was saying. So you're recognizing how the child is acting. You're recognizing what they're actually doing. And then sometimes withholding your initial, like your first reaction, what your thought would be, how you would want to react. So the fact that he had that type of outburst should clue you in. There is something going on. Or even though it might be tempting to say, you know, some of you did really well and some of you did not, you can make that as a general statement, but you make that as a general statement before handing out the papers, not pausing by someone's desk to give them their paper and make that statement. That immediately tells the rest of the class, oh, it's this student. So you single him out by accident.
Or deliberately. I think
Or
that was
deliberately, yes.
I think that was
Or deliberately,
I think that was very deliberate.
Yeah.
Sean, as far as the parent is concerned, to kind of wrap up our view of this particular video, she started out very soft and very easy, but she kind of got agitated quickly and moved to a place where she was through the door and clean your room. So it was almost like he was being punished, is how I felt. So how should parents approach this?
Well, firstly, they need to know the signs and they need to know their children as well. Growing up, you had parents that would see that as laziness, or you're worthless, you don't want to do anything. But they need to realize that it goes beyond that. When it gets to the point when you're becoming totally frustrated by the situation, that is the point that you need to seek professional help. Because you realize that you've tried the softer approach, that is not working. You get aggressive, that is not working. Then just don't say as the child being delinquent, or as we would put it, harders. But say at the point in time, listen, I cannot get through to my son. I cannot get through to my daughter. This is time that I need to reach out to someone, the professionals, the guidance counselor at the school, my pastor. I need to reach out to someone who hopefully can reach my child to find out what is going on with him.
All right, so just like our discussion, this has been a team effort. So we had video editing by Fresh Productions. It was directed by Nala and produced by Mrs. Michelle Cox, who also scripted the production. And it's, you know, I don't know if I didn't recognize it before, but all of these topics, all of these things really tie into each other so much. They're so interconnected and so interrelated. It's almost like a knock-on effect. One can cause the other, which brings us to the next video we're debuting today. It's all about mental health. Check it out.
Lyle, the man outside playing football. You coming? Lyle!
Hold on, Chris. Lyle, Chris outside calling for you. You ain't here?
Are you here?
What he calling to ask you to go down and play football?
I feel like ain't no way today, man.
But Lyle, it is Saturday. You usually go down with the fellas on Saturday.
Man, I don't feel like going away today. Just leave me alone, huh?
Lyle. Chris, you say you ain't coming out this weekend, alright?
Alright, Miss Moore. Alright, tell you again, shorty later.
Alright. Leave you alone. But I can leave you and your lonesome to clean up this room.
I cleaning up nothing.
You ain't cleaning up nothing? By the time I come back in here and this room ain't clean, it can be me and you. You hear me? Good.
Wait, I smell bad? What happened with football last night, man? Yeah, like you didn't miss a sweat. So, we watching the game tonight, or no? But I done buy the snacks and everything.
And I done tell you nah. I don't want to play the football, and I don't want to watch this stupid match.
What really going on with you?
Lyle, come for your food. It's getting cold. Jay, go and call your brother, please.
Yo, Ning Nong. Mommy calling you. Food ready.
Are you not hungry?
Where is your brother, Jason?
You say you're hungry?
Oh, for goodness sake. Lyle! Come on now, not this today, come on! Lyle, come on, I made your favorite.
Ma, I'm not hungry, man.
Lyle, what is wrong? Just talk to me now. Lyle.
Mental health is indeed a serious thing that we need to look at. Tanya, again, so many places we can go with things that were happening in that video. It seemed to me like in that instance, the mother was trying. She was trying to reach out. So what could she have done differently, based on your expert opinion?
To be honest, looking at the video, he's already gotten to that point where he does not feel comfortable opening up to her. She would have to maybe take an approach where she says, whenever you're ready, I'm here to listen. So not so much of an aggressive talk to me, but I will listen to you, and give him that space to come to her. And not only do it as a reaction to something that he's exhibiting, but try to create a space maybe where she can spend some time alone with him. And if she finds that none of that is working, then you would reach out to someone else, a professional, get them involved. Because if he's not going to talk at home, but you notice that he's withdrawing to himself more, he's not eating, he's pushing away his friends, then the problem is getting a lot worse, and you will need to talk to somebody else who may be better able to handle it.
Cynthia, what are some of the major causes of mental health that we are seeing with younger people?
I think that a lot of the issues are not being able to communicate properly, not being able to talk to their parents, not being able to talk to their teachers, not being able to talk to their peers. If they go to school and they go to reach out to a teacher and the teacher shuts them down or don't have time, that puts that inside of them. That makes them feel some kind of way, like, oh, you don't have time for me. Or parents, if they're not aware of what's really going on with their child, then the child is going to suffer and going to continue to suffer until the parent becomes aware. So I think that has a lot to do with them developing mental health disorders.
Sean, we saw this video tackle a theme that we're hearing more and more about these days, cutting. And it seems to be something that's directly associated with young people and self-esteem, yes, and mental health and bullying. Are we doing enough to bring our young people through the challenges they're experiencing so they don't turn to things like cutting and self-harming?
No, we're not. We need to teach our young people about emotions. A lot of our young people cannot express how they're feeling. And oftentimes they express it more through anger, because anger is, I think, one of the easiest emotions to express. But are you really angry? It could be sadness, you could be depressed, as in the case of the young man in the video, and not being able to express himself. Maybe the family have not created that environment from the time he was small where you could really have those kind of conversations. So I'm thinking that we need to start a culture in Barbados of having family meetings, allowing our young people to say, I want to call a meeting. There's something I want to discuss. Mom, I want to talk to you. Dad, I want to have a conversation with you. And as the parent, then you have to, what role do you want me to play in this conversation? Do you want me to listen, or are you seeking advice? In addition to that, we have to allow our children to really express themselves without shutting them down. We have a culture in Barbados, or is a part of our culture, where a parent will say, you can come and talk to me about anything. And then as soon as you say, Dad, will you really come to me about for true? I don't want to hear that.
We're parents. Because sometimes it's a little too much. And I think parents really need the help too. So the discussion has to be kind of like a two-way street.
Agreed.
And I've had a discussion before where I said to the professional, okay, what should the children do to help the parents along? Because, I mean, you really have to work hand in glove to be able to accomplish what you need to when it comes to these matters. But what stays with me from what you said is the whole thing of the emotions.
Yes.
And don't laugh. I learned about emotions on Sesame Street. We don't see Sesame Street now, but they used to teach you happy and sad. And I mean, it's so true that, every young person these days seemingly goes to anger immediately. So what can we do? What do we need to do to be able to bypass that, Russell?
Well, I think I agree. It's like we don't talk about emotions. One of the things that I see most often these days is that people are afraid or ashamed of the emotions that they have, and they start saying this word that is one of the pet peeves of mine, should or shouldn't. I shouldn't feel this way, or I should feel this way. And the reality is that from the time you start to say should and shouldn't, that means you are judging the emotion that you have, and saying that your emotion is wrong, or your emotion is bad. And so therefore, from the time you feel that, then you start feeling shame and guilt, and you really kind of keep to yourself. You don't want to say to somebody that this makes me angry, or this makes me sad, or this makes me happy. And so it becomes very, very difficult. And so one thing, again, from the video is that it's really important to have that environment where, I can talk about my feeling. I can talk about whatever it is that I am feeling. Sometimes it's very difficult for a parent to hear, but it's important that you have that environment that the child feels comfortable to share what they are experiencing. Because if they're not comfortable to share it, they just won't. And if they don't, then they're gonna find themselves slinking down into that place where Lyle was, where it's just getting lower and lower and just nowhere to turn.
Things have changed so much in Barbados. I remember a time where extended families were far more prevalent in our society. These days, I'm not sure if we have a terminology for it here in Barbados, but I know in the US, they refer to it as the latchkey effect, or they used to call children latchkey kids, who would, it's that the parents are working, or they come from a single family home and the parents are off working, so they have a key and they're getting themselves ready and going off to school. We saw that in one of the earlier videos where he would say, go off to work, mommy, I'll just get up and go to school later. And when they come home, there's still nobody there. So they're pulling out their key and going into the house, really raising themselves. What part does this play in seeing these particular things play out with our young people? Low self-esteem, not being able to deal healthily with mental illness and bullying and things like that, not having people they can confide in, really.
In a way, it's going to teach them that they have to be self-sufficient. That the person that they have to depend on most is themselves. And you wouldn't think of it that way because it's just that, you know, the parent has to go to work, they have to let themselves in your house and you trust them enough. But the challenge is that if I've had a hard day at school and I really want to turn to my mommy or my daddy or even my older sibling, I don't have that option. I have to keep my emotions to myself. I have to figure out a way that I can deal with it. So then when the parent is present, I've already learned, well, I don't necessarily run to them with these things. I have to be self-sufficient. So no, you're expecting me to depend on you, but I never learned that in the first place. So I'm trying to figure out how to take care of myself, and then I'm trying to figure out how it is that I can turn to you when I need you without previously having that environment provided.
And building on that, Cynthia, where you're not having that level of interaction you need with the children, how then are you able to have these conversations that Sean talked about? Even move to a place where you're hoping that you can have these family meetings, which I don't think really are a part of what we do. I mean, even counseling, I think we're now getting to that place. But if we're honest, people are like, that's something for TV. It's so far-fetched. That's not something we do. We're embracing it a lot more, but even now, the stigma that goes along with even the thought of having discussions on mental illness, on low self-esteem, on bullying, on children just dealing with their matters and having discussions with parents, you know, people are still like, I don't know, this might be a little too soft for me. You know, so how do we get past these things that are really cultural to be able to tackle the problems?
Well, the thing is, just do it. Like Nike. You have to reach out to your child and or other children. And children have to look within themselves. That's one of the things that I think is so critical, is that people have to look within themselves and find their strength. And once they can identify their strength and they're able to see, okay, I'm going through a problem now, but how do I get past that? How do I get beyond that? One of the ways of doing that is writing to yourself, journaling. That is helpful. Creating family gatherings or friend gatherings where you and your peers can talk about some of the issues that you go through. Because a lot of the children go through the same things. You know, a lot of the children, they all deal with parents that are working. They may deal with one family parents, you know, in the house. And so they have to learn how to grow up, I guess you could say, and find that strength within themselves, because we all have it. We just have to develop it, and we have to be taught. And that's what Supreme does. We teach young people that you have the strength within you. You have the power to make your life happy. And if that's what you're looking for, you have to really work on it.
As we continue, the final video we're debuting today, you know, and this can be seen as one of those direct responses that often we see coming out of the bullying and the mental illness and all the other struggles, low self-esteem, etc., anger management. So let's check out this video, and then we come back and talk more with our experts about it.
Okay?
Nah.
Yo, look at this idiot.
What is that one I'm looking at? If you got to say it, tell me to my face now.
If you bad no, but that off fool from you, boy.
From who?
You.
From who?
So, between the project and the test next week, we will have your final grade. Speaking of the project, put them here on the desk on your way out. Mr. Moore? I can pretend I didn't just hear that. Where's your project?
I forgot one.
Not enough of your behavior though. Since you can't be bothered to do my work or answer my questions, you can skip lunch and go to the principal office. Listen, boy! Leave me again?
Yes, sir. Okay. The principal is ready to see you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Lo, get up.
Yes. Thank you.
Lo.
Please, have a seat. Ms. Moore, I called you in this morning because we've received several complaints about your son's behavior, not only toward teachers, but fellow students.
Complaints?
Lyle, would you like to explain what's been happening?
No, I good.
Lyle, if you were so good, why was I called away from work?
Ask you, mommy. Ask you why he had to call you over here.
His teachers reported that he's been picking on students and he's been in detention every week for rudeness. We sent letters to your home to that effect.
I never received any letters, sir.
Ma'am, isn't that your signature?
Lyle, have you been forging my signatures, boy? Sir, I have never seen these letters, and I had no idea that these things were happening.
In cases like these, we notice that behavior like this doesn't just happen out of the blue. You noticed any changes in him at home? Lyle, I hope that you understand the seriousness of your actions. Ms. Moore, I'm going to have to suspend Lyle for 2 weeks. I'm going to recommend that he goes to Supreme Counseling to help him before he returns. Lyle, take this time to reflect on your behavior.
Do whatever you gotta do, buddy. Look, we done here yet? There got a lot of things I would rather do than be here.
What? Jason. Oh,
Jason.
Lyle.
Jason.
Lyle, I am sorry. What is bothering you, boy? Please talk to me.
I think everybody can relate to what was happening in that video. We've all seen it in the home, with a friend, we've all seen it. And it ties in so much to what is happening all around us at this particular point in time. How, as parents, do you really combat anger in your children? For some parents, they're not even sure why children are so angry. There's so many people out here who just, especially, sorry to say, younger people. And I feel funny saying that because I still feel like I'm a younger people. But it's like they're all so angry. Russell, what are some of the techniques that can be employed to combat anger and help with anger management?
So one of the first things is to start by creating an atmosphere where you're listening as opposed to telling, because you don't want to come across as judging the person's emotions. Other than that, you will also want to lay the foundation that they understand that anger is a normal emotion that everybody feels, whether the highest of high in society to the lowest of low in society, it doesn't matter. Everybody feels anger. the person that you see that is so composed, all of them feel anger. So it's nothing to feel ashamed about. And that's, I think, the first step, is to get them to be comfortable saying that, okay, well, this is what I feel. After you acknowledge that, it's like, look, the floor is yours. Speak. Tell me what is it that is making you feel that way. And the truth is, most of the time, children are not ready to speak about it in the first couple sessions, and that's okay. You let them go at their pace. Because what we saw a lot in the video is like pushing someone to, oh, speak. And it's like, well, look, I'm not ready to speak. And so it really takes a good while to create that atmosphere, create that environment that they can speak. And another thing that you kind of learn and you kind of use later on is that when you are expressing your anger, so you don't have to resort to the first thing that comes to your mind, the lashing out, right? It's like we have so many other options that we can do, so many other behaviors and actions that we can do. It was mentioned earlier about journaling. Journaling is one of the most important tools that you could use when you're having those extreme emotions. Put down the feelings on paper. It's like, sometimes, like, even for myself, it's like I have to sometimes go to pen and paper and start writing. And I could tell you by the end of it, I either start feeling a little bit better, or I start to even understand the feeling that I have. And the better I can understand it is the more I can relate it to the person who has, I wouldn't say caused me to feel that way, but the person who is in that situation with me. And I can share what is actually going on, and we can actually have a productive discussion about it instead of lashing out.
Cynthia, you made mention of communication as being a problem, and I see this as tying into this so closely. So what role do you think young people not feeling confident about communicating, even journaling, because we're hearing so much about challenges that younger people are experiencing, even in education? What role is this playing in the type of anger our young people are exhibiting on a daily basis?
Anger. A lot of the young people do not realize the importance of anger. Anger helps you deal with problems. It shows you that there is a problem, something's going on. And once they realize that, once they're taught that, when you find yourself angry, there is a problem going on. What can you do about that problem? What can you do to find out what that problem is? And once they are able to really think about it and go within themselves, their own mind, because that's where everything materializes, in our heads, in our minds. Once they've realized that, then they're able to understand, okay, so I'm angry because so-and-so said something to me. What can I do about it? You could either address the person, or you could, if you don't feel that you can address the person, write it down, journal. You could find coping skills. Whereas you can use mindfulness so that you can come out of that rumination where it goes over and over and over in your head, because that's what anger does. So once they're able to learn how to handle their own feelings, their own anger feelings, then they're able to address what they need to internally to get to overcome that. If they find that they can speak to someone, that's the best thing to do. Someone that they feel confident in talking to, a counselor, a teacher, a parent, or a friend, that's helpful. Get it out, release it, don't hold on to it.
Yeah, just finding the right release is what we really need. Tanya, what advice would you give to parents who are dealing with this? Because, you know, as a parent myself and an aunt to some 6-footers, you know, after a while it's like they get angry, but it's difficult sometimes to connect. So what advice do you have for parents to make that connection, to try to break down this wall of what I like to call sometimes toxic masculinity that is kind of intensified by the pack mentality? So when they're on the block, and with people it kind of gets even worse. How do we get through to these young people?
One of the first things is, if you recognize the person is angry, that is not the moment to try to get them to engage with you. Because what's going to happen is they're angry, their anger and how it manifests is going to make you angry, especially as a parent or somebody, you're responsible for that person. So it's not going to solve any issues because you're addressing them when they're in a heightened state and you're in a heightened state. So it is to take a step back. Also not approaching them when there's like a group of people, because then you have to kind of show yourself, prove yourself that you're strong. So even if it's mommy or auntie, right now I vex and I cannot have my friends thinking I soft. So wait until they're home. Wait until you can actually have a conversation with them. Not an argument, but a conversation where you are listening and you are trying to get them to a place where they can also listen. Labeling the emotion is helpful, right? Saying, you seem angry, what's wrong? Or even saying, you know, your reaction is actually making me angry, so I'm gonna take a step back. And that's setting the example. You're letting them know you have to recognize what emotion you're feeling. Sometimes you can take a moment for yourself and then you can address the situation later on.
Sean, one common thread that ran through this whole thing, talk it out. Everything. We said, talk it out. Does counseling work?
Yes, it does, but you have to work counseling. Meaning that you have to open up, you have to be honest. You have to not just be there, but you have to be there. You have to be involved in the process. And you must want the process to work. At the end of the day, the counselor, the psychologist can sit and can give you all of these brilliant ideas and all of these strategies that you can employ. But unless you are willing to try these things, unless you're willing to do these things, then it's a waste of time. Additionally, outside of the counseling room, then the family setting must be able to echo what is being said in the counseling room. So that is why oftentimes you will find that the counselor, the psychologist would make recommendations for the parent at home, will make recommendations for school, so that we all are on the same page and that we are working towards helping the child. It makes no sense in the counseling room, the child gets a fit and starts to act out, and the counselor says, but remember, you're going through this process to be able to manage your anger. But then the child acts out at home and the parent goes, I don't know why you're wasting my time taking you to anger management because it ain't working. Or then at school, the teacher goes, but you are not changing. Whatever you're doing is a waste of time. We all must be speaking the same language. You know, I realize you're trying. You are young, you will make mistakes. You will fall off, but try to allow making mistakes to be the exception and not the rule. We are here to support you. We are here to help you. We are in this together. And that makes a lot of difference.
A lot of young people don't have that support, and we see it with so many young people who end up in front of the court system. And you hear of parents, you see it every day reported in the news, parents say, I don't know what to do. It's almost like they throw up arms. So they take them into the court and they say, before anything happens, he's bad, she's bad, I can't do anything more, because they feel like they're at the end of their tether. So it's wonderful that, you know, there's Supreme Counseling for personal development, where you can go to experts like you guys who are dealing with these matters that tie in so much to what's happening in our society now. And I'm sure that you agree. Share these videos far and wide and start that discussion with your families, with your friends, with whomever you can, because these are the issues that we have to tackle to be able to get on a different plane in our families, in societies, in the world. Thank you all so very much for making the time to share with us. And I know that the only person who was keen on being on camera was Sean. But I mean, it was all for, you know, a very interesting discussion on knowing the signs. And thanks for sharing a little time with us as well. Like I said, check out the videos again and keep talking. Most importantly, call Supreme Counseling. Check them out online, all major platforms, so that you can get to a place where you and your family are thriving and doing well. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one.